A New York man was arrested yesterday and accused of fatally stabbing an ex-convict who punched his girlfriend on a J train that is, of course, the subway. This is Jordan Williams, who was arrested. He was on the New York J train with his girlfriend when they were confronted by 36-year-old. I don't even know how to pronounce his name, but the thing that you need to know about this is that he is apparently an illegal immigrant who had a rap sheet. I don't know why he was still here if he was an ex-con, but he was harassing commuters aboard the train. Sound familiar? Sounds a whole lot like the Daniel Penny case and Jordan Neely, who was, of course, we spoke about, I believe it was yesterday, who Daniel Penny's being charged with manslaughter for defending the passengers after Jordan Neely was acting erratically. Well, this one was even more egregious. So this guy was harassing commuters aboard the train, and Jordan Williams stepped in to get the man away from his girlfriend when the man punched his girlfriend in the face. And so to defend his girlfriend against this obvious aggressive behavior, against this assault, he removed his folding knife, stabbed the man in the chest. The man got off the train and later died from the stab wounds. And Jordan and his girlfriend stayed on the train until the cops caught up with them later down the line. Another passenger recorded the event, and eyewitnesses corroborated the claims that this man was aggressive to the couple. But in New York City, it doesn't matter because you're not allowed to defend yourself. You're not allowed to defend others. And so he was arrested, and then later there's a rumor going around that he was released and the charges were dropped. He was not released with the charges dropped. He was released without bail because the judge felt that he was not a flight risk. He absolutely is still being charged with manslaughter, and he could face up to 26 years in prison if he is found guilty. His attorney, by the way, told the court that he works for FedEx. He's never been in legal trouble before. They say he's a gentle soul in the community. This situation escalated, and it was by no fault of his own. And he was in the precarious position where you either sit there and get assaulted and let all the people get assaulted, or you eventually stand up for yourself and you get arrested. By the way, his mother has set up a Give, Send, Go for his legal fund. You can find it over at givesendgo.com/GAR77. It's getting really scary in big cities, specifically. I mean, I say big cities. I feel like I shouldn't have to say big Democrat cities because it's kind of redundant. Mm-hmm. If you're in a big city, it is overwhelmingly Democrat that it's going to be. And, I mean, I guess you could make the argument that, this is being treated differently in the instance that, Daniel Penny, there was wall-to-wall coverage. You had to dig deep to find this particular story because I would imagine maybe because it's not as exciting when it's a black guy who is standing up against this aggressive person because you can't make the race argument. Mm-hmm. But I mean, this is black or white or whatever color you are, you're still going to get arrested if you defend yourself.
And that's the important part that people had long needed to understand, man. It's never been a black and white issue, right, with stuff like this in regards to self-defense. If for whatever reason you live in an area where they basically criminalize you defending yourself and the people around you, it doesn't matter what you are, you're going to unfortunately get arrested. And with stuff like this, the thing that's it's so frustrating because people that have been in definitely physical conflicts, you understand that you got to act quick because you never know. Mm-hmm. And to me, when you are an aggressor, you forfeit anybody giving you the benefit of the doubt. It's the same argument where people feel some kind of way, and that's the argument that they're going to make is like, well, he pulled out a knife, and this is a more so overreaction. It doesn't fit the crime, as if he's supposed to analyze this whole situation in slow motion and give this guy the benefit of the doubt. It's the equivalent of people that get angry when someone gets killed because they tried to, let's say, rob a house, and they were like, well, it's just stuff, right? It's like, first of all, if you've invaded in someone's personal space, they have no idea what it is that your intentions are, what you're capable of doing, and they don't owe that to you. No. The great Murray Rothbard, who ironically enough, I'm wearing a shirt with his face on, I just realized that, but he had once said, when dealing with an act of aggression, a deadly invasion of any sort, you have every single right, and it's perfectly reasonable, essentially, to treat it as if every invasion is going to be a deadly one. Because you don't know.
Exactly.
You have no idea. So when there's a clear-cut example of flat-out aggression, like that's what an act of aggression is, right? It's not something, definitely in this case, and definitely in the case of private property riots, this is something they didn't provoke you. You were out of your mind, or you just felt like being an idiot. Whatever the reason was, you are the aggressor. You initiated the conflict, let's say that. So if someone deals with you accordingly, especially when you're getting physical with someone else's, like this is what we want. We talk about masculinity all the damn time, definitely here on this station. You know what I mean? And you'd expect the man to act accordingly. It's his woman. And you gonna punch, I could imagine someone punching my wife. That's probably how that person's gonna end up. But I live in a city where I get to carry something that's far more deadly, let's say, than a knife. But on a serious note, you don't know that in that given circumstance, especially in somewhere like New York City, man. Who knows what this person's gonna do? Just like what happened with the Jordan Lilly situation. Who knows what this person's gonna do? So I hate to see stories like this, and I'm glad that he's obviously getting the support it is that they're getting. But I would hate to see, what do you say, like 27 years he can face up to that? I would hate to see this young man go to prison for defending himself and rather his woman from some idiot. Man, that'd be it'd be a crime.
Yeah, I mean, you understand why, as you mentioned, we're constantly talking about the lack of masculinity in the average American male these days. And it's like, sometimes you see stories like this all the time and you're like, I mean, if he's punching out your woman, you're going to react. If you're a bystander and you are a man who has a family and you want to make sure that you go home to your family and don't get arrested for standing up for a stranger, I can kind of understand why someone would just sit back and let it happen. I'm not saying it's the right decision to make, but I am saying I can understand the thought process of like, well, I don't want to get arrested. I don't want to go to jail. I'm going to leave my kids and my family for a complete stranger. I can understand why they would come to that conclusion, and I couldn't blame them for it.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the criminal thing about those laws in itself that have criminalized self-defense. I think last week I was just talking about the sum of love in 2020 and the people that got arrested for defending their property. It's a crying shame, but that's what happens. And this is why the crime is as rampant as it is in a lot of these areas, because they basically said that the only people that are justified to act accordingly are the police. That's it. Right. A lot of these issues sort of solve themselves, definitely when you're dealing with a bunch of idiots roaming the streets. That type of stuff gets resolved. And I guess that's why the laws exist, because then you have people that are heavily reliant upon the state, right? So what more would the state want? They certainly wouldn't want that. They wouldn't want a situation where people are allowed and more free to protect themselves and not have to find the need for them. Right? They wouldn't want that at all. So I think that's why those laws certainly exist in the first place. But to your point, it's why the crime would continue to rise, because people, you see this with, even as something as simple as theft, like in places which often have to be leftist areas where you can't act, right? You can't stop a shoplifter. You can't do this and you can't do that. So what happens? The crime then goes up and people steal more because they don't fear any sort of consequence. That's just how it happens. So these issues would resolve themselves if you got rid of those laws and just allow people to reasonably protect themselves.
If you like that clip, there is plenty more where that came from. Click the link in the description below to subscribe to the News and Why It Matters YouTube channel to watch the full episode.